Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Game Hub. I'm your host GamerK, and as you can see, I've got quite a bit of a challenge for me. It's the end of June, ladies and gentlemen, which means I'm going off in a big way. Well, not going off, but you know what I mean. Per my dad's selection for this month's videos, he gave me the challenge of doing all six CSI the video games in one video, which shouldn't be that difficult considering each game isn't really that long per se. It's more very fidgety game case. Basically, I'll be going over the evolution of the CSI video games, of what still remains to be one of my favorite game series. I mean, when I was young, not really, but as I got older, this was my only this was the only game I had where solving a murder made me feel exhilarated until L.A. Noire would come out many, many years later. Now, I will be doing this video in a very certain order. I will be starting from the first game to the final game that was done, rating each game as a whole based on its gameplay, its mechanics, the cases. And I'm just going to say right now, every single case I love. So if we're going by the math, that's 6 games, 5 cases apiece, so that's 60 cases. And as each game was done, as all games, it evolved the gameplay, which I love. So I'm going to remove all the ones that I'm not doing right now, and I'll put them up as I go through. So we're going to start off with this 2-game bundle that my cousins gave me when they were done with it. CSI Crime Scene Investigation was the very first game. It came after the show's popularity from 2000 and through 2016. You gotta admit, it's an impressive show. So the first game came out in 2003. So 3 years after the first 3 seasons were done. The game was developed by Telltale Games and Ubisoft. You know, when Ubisoft could actually make a game without crashes. So the game starts off, and the entire game, you don't play as the characters from the show. What you do is that you're the new intern, and you will be partnered up with the characters from the show in each individual case, which I love. I love it when games put you right directly into the field of the show. Not only that, but it's the same way as I felt with the Ghostbusters video game, where you're not playing as the Ghostbusters, you're playing as a Ghostbuster. But enough about that. So, the first game is about, after going through the math, about 3.5 hours. So I think that runs it down about 30 minutes a case, I think. So basically, it's a basic point and click, looking around the room kind of thing. There's nothing you can miss unless you're actually looking for it. Analyzing the evidence is fun. So via travel, there's a little tab bar on the bottom of the screen where you have all your collection tools, your evidence, and your locations where you can get around throughout the game. Now, the first game implements a circular area rotation pattern, so you can't really, as the games go on, that quickly changes, and for the better. So basically, you just look. So basically, it's like those 3D photos that people are doing. Like, you're in the middle, and you can basically just turn yourself around full 360 and see the entire area. The collection in the game is very mundane, with sometimes you actually have to use, when collecting samples from a suspect, you actually have to use the tweezers or the swab on them in order to collect some DNA from them. And the new games, they just give you the DNA right off during questioning. Now, the game is very, very straightforward. The cases, on the other hand, are beautifully done. In every single game, each case feels like an episode of the show, with its own twists and its own kind of little jokes and jabs from the cast. By the way, in practically every single game, the entire cast from the game returns to reprise their roles as the CSI team from Vegas. Fortunately, some of the lab sequences are kind of basic at best. There's not much trick to it. There's not much forethought. Basically, a good majority of them, you just do computer searches and match what you find, and you give a good majority of evidence to Greg to analyze, and this happens through the first 2 games. The cases in the first game are very good, from an escort being strangled in a cheap motel room with a little bit of a very seedious motive. A man's house is caught on fire, but is he just blowing smoke? Case 3, an officer on patrol is found beaten, with sinister tones of an old cold case. A casino heiress daughter barreled up dead, with some revenge in play, and this case portrays to a previous case, and the final case. Grissom is missing, and the killer from our last case is hinting very ominous threats. The entire game is beautiful. I'm not going to go into very big detail about each case. I'm just going to give a brief description for those who haven't played a CSI game yet. What are you waiting for? It's 2020. There's nothing much to do. Find these games if you can and play them. They're a lot of fun for every CSI fan. So, overall, the first game is very basic. Each case doesn't really have that big twists or those big moments because it's pretty cut and paste. The cases are well designed. If you don't know exactly where it's going to go, like if you're just playing it for the first time, you're going to get sidetracked a lot in the big twist. So overall, the first game does its job of being an amazing CSI game. It's just that, it just doesn't have that epicness of the lab that all the other games have. So the first game, Crime Scene Investigation, gets a 6 out of 10 for me. Going on to the next game, CSI Dark Motives, which for some reason that I can remember, they had the game on Nintendo DS. For some reason, I don't really know why. I don't think... Was the Nintendo DS out? I'm not 100% sure on that. But the next game came out in 2004. CSI Dark Motives. Now, it's not as bright as the previous game was, having a lot of the interiors be dark and creepy. And this game gave me nightmares when I watched my sister play it as a kid. I was terrified. Very, very terrified. But as I got older, I realized it's just a game. It's not really going to hurt me. I had a wild imagination as a kid. But the cases in this one are a lot better than the first game. For example, a daredevil stuntman for a live TV show has a mysterious accident. Was it incompetence, bad luck, or company sabotage? Second case. A homeless man is found dead in an abandoned asylum. Was this bum down on his luck, or were riches the motive for murder? Third case. A skeleton is found in a supposed Indian burial ground where construction for a new casino is being built. Is this native revenge? Or could a mysterious scam artist, be the real purpose behind this murder? Fourth case. A stage actress is shot during rehearsal. Was this foul play, or did the killer just simply exit stage right? And finally, a missing Komodo dragon from an exotic circus. All that remains of his pen is a single human toe. Is this just a circus employee gone rogue, or do more malevolent motives lie beneath the surface of this circus? The final case of this game was the one that creeped me out the most, mostly because of the atmosphere, the creepy tone it created throughout, and like, my God. And also the evidence collection did get a little bit better. It still has that panorama view throughout every crime scene. You do a little bit more evidence collecting, not just giving it all to Greg. What else does this game improve on? Like I said, the jokes are always there. And not only that, but for Inuyasha fans, I can't remember their names, the voices of both Naraku and Moroku are in this game. So that's what I love about the CSI games. They have voices from certain voice actors, and you better keep an eye out or else you might miss it. That's a little fun game I like to play in a game like this, where you get to guess where the voices come from. So the cases elevate a little bit more. Evidence collection is a little bit more interesting, and the cases are definitely a lot more enticing. So Dark Motives at 6 hours to complete, a little bit longer than the first game. Dark Motives gets a 7 out of 10, being slightly better, but every other game gets better with age. Let's continue. Coming out in 2006, 2 years after the last game, CSI 3 Dimensions of Murder. This is where Dark Motives was where they started getting creative with their titles, so it wasn't just CSI Crime Scene Investigation. They added very fun titles to this game. And this one is where things got really good. The 3D graphics got better. The movements of each character as they talked were better. And the flashbacks during like the crime scene recreation of how the crime went down get a little bit more animated than just simple 2D and just slight movements. So the elevation got up even better. During this season is when Greg is no longer in the lab, and the lab gets even better. Not only that, but throughout the evidence, you can do like a 3D view. Like you can view the evidence to see if there's more evidence on top, behind it. And it's really, really fun. In the lab, you can test gunfire, put pieces of evidence together like shredded documents. You now collect fingerprints and analyze them through the. You can collect. You analyze your fingerprints, your DNA, audio files, trace substances. No more giving it to Greg. You got to put in the work now. And interrogating the suspects gets even better. So good, pretty good. And every single case again elevates to the next level, and I love that. Unfortunately, Marg Helgenberg and Georgia Fox did not reprise their roles here for Sarah and Catherine, but everyone else is there, and the actresses that they do bring in do a very good job. Now, this one does not do the panorama view anymore, but more likely, there's an edge to a crime scene, and there's another edge. So you can go via this view and stop, but you can still progress through, depending if you're allowed to go into another section of the crime scene. My voice. The crimes in this game got even more dark and creepy. For the first case, a patron of a fine art museum is found bludgeoned to death on the day before her wedding, too. Was it simply a case of cold feet gone bad, or was a masterful murder perfectly captures life imitating death? Case 2, a video game executive found dead in his demo booth. Was the killer just playing a twisted game, or is there a couple bugs in the motive behind the case? Case 3, a casino heiress's daughter is nowhere to be found. Only her apartment is covered in blood. The suspects include a fiancé with a very, very subtle hint of domestic abuse, a jealous sister who works her butt off for dad, but the victim gets all the money, gets all the credit, and a mysterious male nurse at the hospital. Find out if blood really is thicker than water in this case. In case 4, a man is found dead, mysterious causes, in the desert during a camping trip. He was a rich playboy. What? Was money the real motive, or was it just something a little bit more beyond the surface? And case 5. A PI is found crated up in an alley, and some familiar faces of previous cases come back to haunt us once again for a very epic final case. The cases are done exponentially well in this game, and again, the voice acting is done even better, and the animation of each character and each environment is beautifully done. Not one case feels like it's going to go the same way as another. That's something that really keeps this game interesting. So, a little less time than Dark Motives, clocking it at 5 hours, but the cases are pretty much the same, and the elevated lab work makes the game even better than the first, but I'm still giving it a 7 out of 10, just like Dark Motives, for the main reason is the only innovation they do is having you do all the lab work now. Not that innovative, but still really good. Coming up, CSI Hard Motives. I got this one for the Wii. I don't know why. This one elevates it even further with having even more suspects than usual. In the previous games, the suspect pool has been limited to about 3 characters. No, yeah, usually 3 characters. Once in a while, they'll add a 4th or a 5th, just to kind of spice some things up. The amount of detail they bring back into the analyzing of the evidence in the lab goes even further, with more video evidence being instructed. DNA matching is even gets a little bit more high end. Another thing for some reason they added is in each case, in every single crime scene, you will have a bug to find, which unlocks some unlockables after you beat the case, which I kind of don't like. It just feels like you're going away from the case just to collect some bugs. Anyway, the cases are, once again, I keep saying this a lot, that the cases get exponentially better, but because it's true. In this season's case, a taxi driver gets a hot tip as he gets a Viking funeral in his own cab. The suspects include an old burned-out flame that's risen to new heat with her sexual orientation, the lover of said former flame who plays with fire, and a drifter whose luck just about burned out. In case 2, a woman is viciously attacked in her apartment. She still lives, but the mystery of her lost child brings up more motives than sympathy. In case 3, a vintage rock group gets a shocking new album cover. Voltage, Dead from Voltage, with a lovely new singer for a competition show. Was the competition too hot to handle, or is it true when you play with rock and roll, you're gonna burn out? In case 4, a well-respected eye surgeon is found beaten to death in his own house. The only witness is his wife, who is a blind woman. Can her impaired supersensory help us solve the case? Or is there more to this case than meets the eye? And finally, once again, suspects, an old rivalry from a previous case, has 2 families go at it with 1 son dead and 3 on the hook for the rest. What really did happen in a modern Western shootout? Well, you'll have to find out by playing the game. This game clocks in at another 6 hours, which is very good. The game does have a kind of a progression in each case, as Grissom will check in on you once in a while, giving a little commentary. So it does feel like you're progressing further through the case, which I do love. Hard Evidence is, again, another elevated game, and the cases do get a little bit more intricate with having you to go back and re-interview suspects for more information just to get 100%, which I love. Hard evidence gets a hard 8 out of 10. Now let's go on to the next one. Man, this one, I don't know how I found this in this kind of old casing. CSI Deadly Intent. This one came out in 2009, so when Grissom and Sarah left. So in this game, we get Riley Adams, and we also get Ray Langston, who is one of my favorite actors from the show during his seasons. The gameplay definitely got evolved in the last 2 cases. With now, not only do you get to use new lab equipment and mini games in order to analyze substances. You have to play a mini game where the substance will have certain peaks, and you will have to pick through the sections of which peaks fit in order to analyze the evidence. Same thing with the DNA. There will be empty circles, and you'll have to drag the sample into the correct pattern in order to perfectly analyze it. Same thing with the fingerprint. You pick distinctive points of the fingerprint in order to run it through APHIS, which can get a little annoying, but it's still fun. This game is when trophies became apparent, and there's a good hidden trophy in every single case. Once I say all the cases, I'll tell you what it is. Not only that, but the requirements to get a warrant for suspects, locations, and to point out when a suspect is lying has been elevated even more. They did this before LA Noire was a thing. So basically, in order to get a warrant now, you have to go to brass, as always, and when you ask for a warrant for a specific location or a suspect or anything else you may need, you need to show the proper evidence that you've analyzed and have interpreted into getting, for example, if you want, in case 2, if you want to bring Tina Allens in for questioning, you need to show the evidence of her bet that she bet on the fight. Or in case 3, in order to bring in to bring in the victim's boyfriend in, you will need to show evidence of DNA of sexual intercourse. And the same thing with in interrogation, proving that a suspect is lying. It's one of my favorite parts. Like in LA Noire, certain questions you will know that they're lying about because it will appear as basically as a button that says you have evidence that proves they're lying. And you gotta pick the right one and introduce it as evidence. So doing that, it integrates you more into the interrogation process like never before. And it's done beautifully well. And I like how they change in hard evidence and in these games, they changed the layout of collecting evidence and going to locations. You have a PDA where you can look up your evidence, your case trinity with the suspects, and also go from location to location. The evidence collection will only work now if you see the evidence and you pick the correct item to collect it. So a lot of thought processes involved too, which I enjoy that they amped it up more. Now, as to the cases, a blushing bride is found dead in a fantasy suite. Unfortunately, no sign of the groom. Is it another case of cold feet? Or is hidden romance, or is hidden affections the real motive for this case? In case 2, after an ultimate fighting match is called to a halt, the referee is found dead in the ring. Was it the fighter who got called out on a technicality, or is there more to the murder Nah, there's no real wrestling joke I can do. All you know is that more than one victim is down for the count. In case 3, a talk show host is found dead in her hot tub at a rehab facility. Was trying to get her clean. As the victim was trying to get herself clean and rejuvenate her life, someone stepped in and made sure she never came back out of that hole. In case 4, a fire breather found dead in a practice space. Is this purely an accident of his performance art, or is criminal negligence something that is definitely something to look out for? And in case 5, a drag show host is found dead in her club. Unfortunately, there's more to the victim than meets the eye, and a call back to a very old cold case makes this case, well, kind of a drag. The cases are beautifully done. Also, in every single case, there will be a side objective to do, like you're helping out one of your CSIs with a little bit of evidence from their case. Doing that gets you an achievement. Now, as far as the trophies, basically some of the trophies are you'll complete the case with 100% cunning, which is calling out every single suspect's lie perfectly, perfectly collecting every single evidence, looking through every single location, and for analyzing every evidence without a screw-up. You might want to do that in the very first case, because as the cases go, it gets a lot more difficult. Now, some of the side objectives to do is, in case 2, you have to reinterrogate Horace Willingham after his supposed confession. In case 4, you just have to look up the confirm that the victim was wearing makeup. Yeah, nothing that big. So, overall, having the entire game be this interactive and every single case feels very, very intense and with more twists than a pretzel. The cases are done very well in deadly intent. It gets an 8 out of 10, and it's a deadly 8 out of 10 because this game is perfect, and intent is definitely on the menu. Oh boy, doing 6 cases in one video, I'm getting tired. Final one. In 2010, the final CSI game to come out of Ubisoft and Telltale, Fatal Conspiracy. This is when Sarah comes back, and for those of you who have played this game, the voice of Sarah is the same voice of Fang from Final Fantasy 13. For any Final Fantasy 13 fans out there, it's the voice of Fang in this video game. Now, this game does something that none of the games did. It kind of has a side story in every single case. During the first case, an FBI agent says that our case has connections to a woman named the Queen of the Hive, who is a dangerous drug lord. And practically every single case, we have to deal with her at some point, or something during her empire or her previous crimes. Not only that, but we find out that during said cases, our good name is dragged through the mud when evidence is destroyed under our watch. It gets really intense throughout these cases. So once again, they do the same thing as collecting evidence, analyzing evidence, and doing... hang on, I just need to think for a minute. Interrogating suspects while providing evidence that they're lying, which I really love that they kept that. I'm just sad that this was the final game that they did, because they could have done a little bit one more. I mean, they could have. So anyway, going into and again, they do have trophies in the game too in every single case, and it really feels like you can interact with everyone in this game, and I love that. So the cases are: a spa goes up in flames, but in the mud, a body is discovered. Was it pure revenge for a breakup that caused the flames to spark? Or does the queen of the hive have a bee inside this case? In case 2, a work foreman falls to his death at a construction site that's been delayed time and time again. You'll have to find all the planted evidence in this case in order to find out the true cause. In case 3, an heiress to a gaming empire who suffered burns throughout her body a year ago is found dead in her estate. Did her old wounds finally catch up to her, or did someone help her along? Was it jealousy or mercy that was the cause for this motive? For the case 4, a temp secretary found dead in a car wash. Was it a drug trip gone very, very bad, or is her involvement with the Queen of the Hive the real motive behind her getting the sting? And in case 5, the killer from the previous case is found dead in the jail cell, with hints that the Queen may have acted on her own for once. Has the mole behind your name being driven by the mud responsible for this case? And how will you bring down this hive? The cases are, again, integrated so well into the side story of the Queen of the Hive. It gives me the creeps a little bit, though. Very, very creepy in the final case. But it's done exponentially well, every single case. As for the side objective, like the side trophies to get in each case, case 2 is very simple. Find every piece of evidence in the game. Case 3, identify both DNA samples on the lingerie that's been found in a suspect's room. Case 4, confirm a suspect's alibi in a case of he said, she said. And in the final case, find enough evidence throughout the case to finally put an end to the Queen's empire. This game clocks in at 9 hours, so it's the longest of the games, and it's the shortest. No, it's not the shortest, but it's the final one. So it makes me a little sad that this epicness and the way they end the game on kind of a cliffhanger kind of bugs me. It made me think that there was going to be another game, but sadly there wasn't. Fatal Conspiracy was the fatal game for the CSI games until they tried their hand at doing what Criminal Case did, which was on Facebook, and that ended up being a disaster. So I'm really hoping, like, in the future, someone realizes their mistake and we get another CSI game, or maybe a Bones game. I would be okay with that. Games like this, based on crime shows, are what I live for, because you get to play as throughout one of your favorite games, and that's just fun. So Fatal Conspiracy gets the highest rank above all the games, a 9 out of 10. Because of how well the story integrated into each case, how well the twists kept coming. Not one game skipped a beat of being better than the last. In retrospect, all of the CSI games I love. I will play them. I will continuously replay them when I get the opportunity, because hell, they're a hell of a lot of fun for any CSI fan. And if you haven't played them, and if you're looking for something to pass the time, pick them out. I'm pretty sure you can find them downloadable too, or just buy them via Steam. I think they're on Steam. Oh, Lord, that hurt. I did it! 6 games in 1! Oh. Oh my lord, what next? What do I have to do now? Well, that's it for this, the longest review I've done, ladies and gentlemen. Well, not the longest, but doing 6 games in one, it was a bit of a challenge. Like, comment, subscribe down below. And it's a new month next month, and it's a new month next week, ladies and gentlemen. And to start it all off, I'm going to teach you all the basics of a villainous card game. This is GamerK, logging out.